Welcome to another edition of the MMA Analysis podcast, a special edition because Lance is out of here. Sean's doing filthy things over in North Texas, Alberta, to try and pay for his house, you know, the stuff you got to do. So we brought in a ringer this week, folks. Wes is here, as always, all reliable, you know, me, the guy that left for like 2 years, the backbone of the podcast for sure. You know, the shoulders get tired from carrying these dudes around, but I've got some support this week. Dan Tom of MMA Junkie, other outlets, so many things. Your own website, mixedmartialanalyst.com, correct?
Spit on it a little, Brad, if you're going to jerk it that way.
Yeah, Dan, thanks for. We've been trying to do this for a while, and we finally got it. I've bounced over to your show a couple times. We've had a blast, and now we're really here at a party. The gloves are off on the anal cyst, if you will. How are you doing, buddy?
It's good to be here. It's always good to be on one of the few MMA podcasts that actually pops up on my feed as you guys are OGs. I might as well be on here. I mentioned you guys enough because even though I'm not a journalist, I try to do the journalistic thing and like give credit where it's due, which, you know, not enough do. And a lot comes from this year's show. So it's a pleasure to be here. I have to get Wes on my show now that you mentioned it. And real quick, this is, you know what this feels like, guys, real quick? This feels like when you're getting your first class assignments, you've got like 6 periods here in America, so to speak. And some classes, like the teacher's smart and they know you and your gang and they split you apart. But sometimes you get that teacher that doesn't know any better and they let Brad and Wes sit next together. And next thing you know, I'm sitting next to them and I'm like, fuck yeah, I get to sit next to Brad and Wes. And then my next thought is, I am going to fail this class. So this is what this show feels like. I'm sitting next to my friends. We'll see how much trouble I get into.
Yeah, I hope you're not planning on investing heavily in this card because we're certainly not here to win bets. That's not what we do around these parts. Wes, how are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there, man. Staying busy, trying to get everything for the little boy on the way here in a few weeks. Yeah, it's awesome to have our boy Dan on here. I know we bullshit a lot on the old Twitter space, and you know, to spit on it and jerk it a little more. I've said for a while I think that Dan is absolutely one of the best pure analysts in this space, and yeah, it's great to have him on this little shitty show that we do every week and have fun, and it's going to be awesome.
All right. Yeah, without further ado, we're going to take a little trip down memory lane and look back at last week's card. And then we'll hop into this week's tremendous offering from the UFC. I mean, they just keep knocking it out of the park for us, folks. So, you know, we picked a good one to get Dan on here with us. But last week we had, I don't know why it says UFC Fight Night Korean Zombie versus Ige. The main event was obviously T-shirt in the pool title on the line between the champ, Roque Martinez, and my boy Carbo Parisian, the displaced Parisian brother from the Midwest. And honestly, gentlemen, what a fight! This delivered. We've got Roque. I know he didn't get the decision. People laughed at me last week when I said this man was built for 25 minutes. But if you saw the way that this dude was coming on late in that fight, flying knee in the last 10 seconds, that is how you retain the T-shirt in the pool strap. Dan, what were your thoughts on this epic encounter?
Yeah, you know, in your defense of the build for 25 minutes, I mean, did people not forget about, like, Velasquez bro theory that, like, the uppiness is why he had the best cardio? Like, if that's true, I think Roque, because when he started fighting, it was about, like, Kane's prime. I think he just took that to the bank and he started cashing checks. But speaking of cashing checks, I love Brad bets on fights, like how I pick restaurants to eat in Hawaii, where, like, see a guy like Roque eating there, I'm like, we picked the right place, guys. This is the right place. We made a good choice. And that seems to be how Brad bets on fights, which I'm not hating. And yeah, it was impressive. I wasn't watching too too closely. As I don't know why, I always end up like oddly enough eating during these points of the card. Like Brad goes on dog walks during women's fights. I eat during heavyweight fights. It's this weird destructive thing going on. But I didn't watch too much. I actually thought Carbo lost, but man, I think he must have impressed the judges in the last 2 rounds, I'm guessing. I don't know if you guys were on that fight aside from the over, but maybe not, because wasn't the over juiced to all hell?
Oh, I was on Fight Goes the Distance in that one, and a little sprinkle on Carbo by decision, just because I thought he was going to win. I didn't really have thoughts about the decision one way or the other. It could have gone either way. I don't think you can classify that as a bad decision or a robbery. But Wes, your thoughts on the big boys getting it done?
Yeah, I thought Roque probably squeaked that one out. Yeah, it's crazy about how on point you were on that fight, which you usually are with these t-shirt in the pool guys. Roque was coming on in the third, man. Like you said, he was throwing fucking flying knees and shit. Like, yeah, he keeps the strap, in my opinion. Got to keep the strap. Built for 25 minutes, but it's almost like the Nate Diaz. Like, if all Nate Diaz fights were 10 rounds, he'd never lose. If Roque was in nothing but 25-minute fights, he'd be heavyweight champion of the world.
That's right. And if he gets cut coming off of this performance, I mean, Dan, you sent me a little picture of the PFL weigh-ins today. They look like they're dipping the proverbial toe in the t-shirt in the pool division. So he's going to snatch up that $1 million contract if he goes over there.
Yeah, I mean, what other job can you show up looking like that guy and be like, I'm showing up for potentially $1 million? That's pretty dang impressive. He didn't have to put on a suit. He didn't have to crunch any numbers. He just stood up there and was like the epitome of male. I was jealous, frankly.
All right, so we'll move on from this. One of the highlights of the card, certainly, the final fight to go on of that card was Korean Zombie taking a unanimous decision over Dan Ige. I don't think quite the excitement people expected out of the fights, but hard to blame a guy like Zombie for just showing he was the superior wrestler, submission grappler, and getting that decision. And we know from Dan Ige at this point that he's not going anywhere unless somebody's really able to put it on him. Wes, anything on the main event?
Yeah, I thought it was a decent performance from Zombie. I thought it was a little funny that he was a dog in the spot. I guess I got it, but I mean, even his losses lately, we even talked about it. He's looked really good at most of the portions of the fights. I mean, I talked about it last week. I was at the Yair fight, and he's just absolutely obliterating him, looking great, and gets caught with something. So, yeah, I think he said that his shoulder popped out at one point in that fight now, like the second or third round. So maybe that's why he went to the heavy wrestling in the third, fourth, and fifth round. But Ige's a tough, good out for anybody. And I thought Zombie looked really good against him. So I don't know what you do with Zombie next. It's got to be like close to a title shot, right? I mean, he's like right there. Maybe another fight against a top contender, but I still like Zombie. I still think he's very, very skilled. We saw kind of a different kind of realm to his fights with the wrestling in this one. So, yeah, I mean, he's a tough out for anybody.
And throwing it over to our Portuguese friend, Dan Tom. I know that your bias definitely had you rooting for the Hawaiian in this one. But what were your overall thoughts on the main event?
Yeah, I guess I can't pour one out, so I'll pour one in and I'll join you, Brad, here. Yeah, there's some fruit in this technically, so you guys can make fun of me too, as well as Brad there. Cheers.
Actually, Steve, we're going with we got a stout going on tonight, so yeah, broadening my horizons. I'm all about personal growth.
Vitamin water and Puff the Magic Dragon.
Look at that over there. Keep it responsible, my man.
Yeah.
I obviously was biased, but at the same time, wasn't too surprised. with the grappling and wrestling part, because that was the reason why I was, even though I did PK, it wasn't like the most confident pick in the world. But it was just based off durability. And even though Zombie's chin held up and he wrestled at the right time, I forgot to talk about this on my podcast, so I'm glad Wes mentioned it. That shoulder, man, that actually worried me more than the chin, because obviously people know that the shoulder has kept him out of certain fights before. It's hurt him in certain fights, like with Aldo, dating back to 2014. And knees are common, even backs are kind of really like fickle. But shoulders, from thankfully not so much my experience having anything too serious, just like minor labrum tears. But people I know, like I used to train with a guy, Paulie, and he had bad shoulder problems. And once it's just at a certain point, once it's gone, a lot of cartilage, a lot of stuff, you're just going to constantly have it popping in and out, whether you're on a bag, going that hard, you're in sparring, or in an actual fight. So that's something to really think about going forward as Zombie gets older, despite as ageless as he is. But yeah, I got no issue there. I missed on an underbet. I did think that maybe he would rock Ige and get a sub, or Ige was going to knock him out, but went to decision.
Yeah, that's a really good point going forward, though, about the shoulder problems that he's had for years and years now. That's at this point, it looks like it's always going to be a problem. So that's something to think about going into any fight that you might be considering placing a wager on the Korean Zombie.
That's one of those things that once it happens once, as it did in the Aldo fight all those years ago, it is far more likely to happen again as well. So definitely a concern, and who knows how long that's going to keep him out before his next fight. But the division's on hold anyway. I actually completely forgot that Tough was happening, and that was a thing again until it popped up on my timeline yesterday or a couple days ago.
I'm actually watching it. I've never missed a Tough episode. I watched them all. I kind of feel like I'm obligated now. It's almost one of those, like, you're watching a shitty TV series and it's like, I can't stop now. I gotta finish it. I'm watching Tough.
How is it?
It's not like Tough anymore. It's literally like guys that are legitimately there to win and learn and fight and train, to where it used to be like 20% that and 80% dudes getting fucked up and doing dumb shit. It just seems like almost like just business now. I just watch it for the fights mainly. Got some decent talent there.
Has anybody ejaculated on food since Bader season?
I don't think we've ever seen that besides that season. I like the one recently where well, it's not been recent, but where they just letting each other knock each other out and shit. Like, dude's like punch me, you can't knock me out, okay, and just cracks him, concuss the dude. Like sitting there trying to get a that's when the show was peak.
Oh man,
I mean, was there anything better than history of neck problem Mikey Burnett getting drunk and running headfirst into a wall, though? I mean, that's
A+. How can that shit not win Emmys? Like, that's peak television, bro.
All right.
Yeah, I only watched a few Tough seasons, so I got nothing, guys. I'm actually really bad. That's my blind spot. So bravo, sir.
I think the last one that I really watched was the live season, which was like 15 or something, if I recall correctly. So
underrated one. Yeah.
It used to really pay off on when those guys would have their first couple of fights in actual UFC. Like, it would really, really pay off if you watch those seasons, especially like their first fight out and they matched up a bunch of them against each other. You could snipe just crazy lines. Like, I remember off the Brazilian season with Warley on it. Warley was like a dumb price in his first fight in Tough because he fought another guy on the show. But they did that a lot off of those seasons when they matched up two fighters that lost on the season. It used to be really profitable. It's not like that anymore.
Smart. But that's a good segue for a little bit later on in the show.
Well, yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to fly through the rest of this card pretty quick. I remember bits and pieces of it and have already forgotten a good deal. Women's flyweight division, Casey the Queen O'Neill choked out. I listened to your podcast earlier today, Dan, and I think you had the best description of this one. You're just like, oh, I hope she doesn't shoot her pants. Please don't shoot your pants. And from all accounts, she did not. I don't think she was wearing white, so we can't really be sure. But there was nothing trickling down the legs, so I think we're safe there. Thoughts on the second best Scottish fighter in the UFC?
You're asking me? Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, you got to do a name with a Procopio involving you know what. But no, yeah, man, Casey O'Neill. She's got a little bit of mix. She's got a bit of Australian, a little bit of the bias. I guess she's been training a lot in my stomping grounds there, my backyard there, Extreme Couture. And good things, man. It's going to do a lot for her confidence. I was kind of worried she could have got burned, so I was kind of reluctant to touch it. And then I was like, you know what? This is plus money. Why not just throw a little bit on there? And not by sub, just kick for coverage. It was fine. But yeah, I like it. I'm just afraid to get too excited because I can already feel the rest of the community getting excited on her behalf, which can lead to certain lines. So we'll see. Yes,
indeed. Yeah, but low-level women's MMA, take the dog. Low-level heavyweights, take the dog. That's two rules to live by in MMA betting. Wes, any thoughts on this one?
Not much. O'Neill looked okay, I guess. Yeah, you don't want to get too hyped up for some of these lower level type women's MMA fights. So we'll watch and see.
Yep. Poor Laura Propecia. Or is it Prolapsio? I don't know. Moving up, lightweight division, Ricky Glenn.
Whew.
Ricky Glenn.
My goodness.
Yeah, this one stung me a little bit because I was on Joaquin Silva on this one, but looking more like River than Joaquin. So,
shit.
Rick the Viper Glenn, the Viper Room Glenn.
Oh man.
Wes, anything on this one?
Yeah, just Ricky Glenn, man, got me. I like Silva in this spot. I thought it was a fairly close fight. I just, man, a 3-year layoff for Rick Glenn coming in here. If you said you saw Rick Glenn literally one punch in this guy, buy a lottery ticket. Like I never saw Rick Glenn getting like some 30-second KO over Silva. So, props to him, man. That was a great punch. Got him out of there. So yeah, go Ricky Glenn.
Yeah, everyone's joking about the name, but I think that's the only thing you can really point to, because even people picking or playing Rick Glenn was like, he's going to blanket him, right? It's going to be an attritional thing. He doesn't like one-shot guys. It was trending, older, injury. Like, Rick Glenn just had hip surgery, and I could hear Wes, already walking to the window after hearing that on the commentary. You're like, let's get this thing going. Joaquin Silva's looking like, as you say, the parlance of the show, magma up. And I don't blame anybody that took a shot there, not just Wes. Because I didn't see that coming either. I was surprised at the movement that was coming in on Glenn, but I don't even think those people saw it going that way in your defense. So,
yeah, you would have to think that it was going to be Glenn trying to grind him out for some rounds and stuff. And yeah, Silva looked like he ate a buffet full of mountain yams coming in there. Like, my goodness, dude. That chin needed a mountain yam on it because it was bad.
Yeah. All right, moving up to the welterweight division, we had what's his actual name? I don't know. It also starts with a K, but Chaos Williams defeats Matt Semmelsberger, our boy Dan from Persecution Fight Team. Couldn't get it done this time. He was a little bit scared, or not. I don't want to say he was scared, but a little bit timid, I would say, because of the power coming back at him on the other side of the cage there. But Chaos still has to make those technical improvements, but there's definitely some raw tools there for sure. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, we didn't know. Like, I think on one of your early breakdowns, it's hard to tell when Chaos was coming in because on his picture, wiki picture, he had the Chaos going across the front of the trunks, which made your guys' judgment as the home of the hog analysis a bit off, and mine was a bit too. I think it's clear, like Brad said, there's some raw tools there for sure, right? But it's just molding it because he's still swinging like really wild, like a friend of the show, Paul, was saying, right? On Twitter, I was discussing with him. Paul Shag, but at the same time, like if you listen to his corner was really smart. There's some really underrated dudes. It's like a not much known gym. I think they're like Detroit or something. But like he was calling everything. He was spot on, saying what he needed to do, feinting. And the fact that like a guy that like looks like Rogan would be, if Chaos Williams fought on a Rogan card, we would just hear about him gassing the whole time. The fact that Chaos Williams was keeping that pace, I think he's got potential. Again, we got to be careful on how much you want to invest someone in the future, but I think there's some positive seeds planted in the rawness there. We'll see.
Absolutely. Wes, how raw is Chaos Williams?
Yeah, I mean, he definitely looked more under control and more tactical in that fight. I think Dan's right. Some of those kind of shovel punches and shit that he was still throwing in the fight. And I will say in the third round, Simmelsberger started letting his punches go a little more. Like I think he took a couple from Chaos and was like, okay, they're big, but I can still throw back at this. And he looked good. I think he won that third round. So I think that was his problem in this fight. He was just way too tentative. And of course, man, Chaos does hit hard. So, but you can't just shrink up in the moment and just not throw. You're gonna lose decisions like that, and that's exactly what happened. And yeah, I mean, if Chaos, like we watched Michel Pereira, that was just an absolute madman, and once he like settled down, got to a decent camp, started getting an okay game plan and fighting under control, the guy looks pretty good. I think Chaos Williams can kind of be sort of in that mode, just more under control. And like look at the just he's just, we hate to say it, but he's athletic as fuck, man. Like that guy's, I think he could be pretty decent.
Certainly could, and still relatively young as well. So we'll see where he goes. Moving on up the cards, we are down in the strawweight division, and one of my personal favorites, Vina Handijoba, looked like she was imbued by the spirit of Rob Schneider in The Waterboy. She could do it, and she did it. And then kind of, I don't know what this trend is lately. We had it a little while ago, or I guess 2 weeks ago with Dan's guy, Jamal. And now we have it with Kanako Murata, where people just get their shit snapped all over the place and nobody wants to stop the fucking fight. I don't know. Wes, what do we got going on here?
Yeah, she looked good. Now that what props to Murata, like tough as hell, but man, sometimes you're just too tough for your own good, and the people around you need to pull you out of spots like that. Whether it had been the ref, I mean, the ref has got the best view of that. Looking at her arm, it was obviously dislocated. I mean, that was bad. It was hanging. She wasn't using it. I guess I don't even know if her corner stopped. I think it was the doctor that eventually stopped it. So that was just bad around. But Murata, tough as nails, man. And it was a good performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, Japan really living up to a stereotype of that never say die attitude, man. It's crazy that just to see that kind of still persist today. But it's also they're very proud warriors, and Verna seemed to give her much respect. And man, much respect to Verna. I know we definitely make our jokes, and I love Brad's nicknames, which is funny because she looks like she looks like she has 0D in her diet, but like we're just gonna roll with that name. But no, like honestly, all jokes aside, like between her improved striking, to give her credit as a fighter, and her post-fight post, I don't know if you saw her with all those beers, like well deserved.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'm becoming a big fan of her.
Yeah,
man. Hey man, I'm becoming a fan of her. I don't say any of that as a negative, obviously. We make our jokes and all, but like that stuff makes me happy and stuff. Like I think she's really come along. I don't know if the odds makers are and the public, because in hindsight, you could look at the opener and say the opener wasn't wide enough, much less the public money, I believe, made that line tighter. So I'm curious if they're going to overcorrect it the next time out or not. But, man, props to Verna, man. So good on her. And hopefully Watanabe's can be attached to that thing.
What do you guys call those beers down south of the border? Because up here we call them schooners. Schooners.
Whoa.
You know?
I don't even think we have a name for them. It's just like the big boy. You order those at the restaurant. It's like, give me the big boy. It's like a 44 ounce or some shit like that. It's just massive.
That's fair. We've got to have names for everything up here. So yeah, that's a schooner if you're north of the border and you're looking for a little bit more beer.
It's not a sailboat. That's a schooner.
Yeah, exactly. You stupid kid. You made another Kevin Smith reference on your show. You're not even supposed to be here today, Dan. What the hell, man?
Yeah, you're lucky. The first recording of it, I actually like my favorite, and I started ranking. I'm like, what am I doing? This isn't a Kevin Smith podcast. This is an MMA podcast.
I mean, we could probably go through and rank some Kevin Smith fights instead of talking about this next fight because I do not remember it at all. Nick N defeats Alexa Kamer. Alexa. Oh, there's no response there. Just nothing happened. Once you ask for Alexa. Dan, anything?
Dude, nothing too. Yeah, I think I don't remember watching this. I think not because I wasn't. I think maybe I tried. My eyes just started reverting. Because it's up to your point, like, what the hell is going on? And again, when you say like this was light heavyweight, but when you say that lower level heavyweight men's fights or women's fights, the dog is a safe bet, and whether or not you want the dog, sure as shit, I'll lay the chalk. And that was, I think, everyone's unanimous. Even people like me who pick Kamer were like, don't lay that, and keep him out of your parlays, keep him. And sure enough, it was a dog or bust. So good on Nick.
I mean, the piece that kind of goes along with that, low-level heavyweights, low-level women's fights. The other piece that kind of completes that is that every light heavyweight is actually a heavyweight. So this could technically be considered a low-level heavyweight fight. These are just the guys that are dumb enough to go and cut the weight. Wes, anything to add here?
No, this was a really, really bad fight. And Dan hit the nail on the head. I picked Kamer, but said there's no way you could lay that kind of juice on him. And of course, in a low level fight like this, the dog is usually the way to go if you want to put out some dollars.
Speaking of the dog being the way to go, and a guy you do not want to lay chalk on, and one we actually got right, which that's always nice. Matt Brown just deads Diego Lima in the second round. Tremendous stuff. Hard not to be happy for him. Wes?
Yeah, this was really cool to see Matt Brown come back at this point in his career. Get not only a win, but just a incredible knockout, and couldn't have been a better opponent, honestly, for him to fight here. I guess Lima looked okay in the first round, but man, we talked about it. I think people just kind of forgot over the past few fights of his just how bad his chin has historically been against dudes that can actually punch. I like Bilal and all, and I think he's a decent fighter, but he doesn't have serious power, not even like Matt Brown has. So after they kind of fucked us on our Paul Craig sub bet that should have cashed for us, we hit the nail on the head here with Matt Brown by KO. It was just a stupid, dumb price. Like, I think it ended up closing at around plus 450 or something like that. It actually went up from what we got. Yep. Just absolutely insane. So, love seeing Matt Brown get another KO, and I love cashing that KO prop.
Diego Lima is like the patron saint of looking good until he doesn't. He is one of those guys. Dan, anything to add on Brown and Lima?
No, man, I'm going to pretty happy with this one as well. This was one I played. This was one of the few that I hit, to be honest. So of course I was happy on that. All the pieces to me just lined up. It was just we've seen a lot of reminders. We saw one in PFL. We saw one with Leon and Nate that, like, no matter how smart, safe, or how much you're blowing a guy out of the water to any degree, if you're not a finisher or you're not finishing, it's just dangerous to be in there with you when you're actually facing a finisher who's been in those battles before. And that is Matt Brown and the whole Lima brothers, both of them, they always fight with their backs to the cage, and that's what kills them in one way or another, whether they're getting knocked out or wrestled. And that's where Matt Brown does most of his damage. Hindsight, I kind of wish I laid it more, but yeah, one of the few ones I cashed, so I'll take it.
The hindsight's always 20/20 in this game. One that I wish I had the hindsight on, took a little shot on the Turd Man by submission, and it started off in the right direction, but it very quickly went the wrong direction once Bruno Silva got on top, and those were some coffin nails. Dan?
Yeah, like that was really rough. I don't blame anybody that took a shot there, because even though I picked Bruno Silva, it's hard to know what you were going to get. And he's kind of showing a more refined version on the regionals, like in M1, just that kind of rough and tumble style, but he's got really heavy hands that translates to the floor. I'll say this, and you guys can, as I pass on to Wes, it's disturbing about Turman that he's getting knocked out and, fed to the wolves. Like, everybody gets fed to the wolves, from Max Holloway to especially fighters of today, with the way the UFC is wired. But when you see a guy, especially a guy who looks like the Terminator, right, and the chin just does not seem to be there, that worries me. I know we just mentioned Diego Lima, but, like, Diego Lima's at least been around for a while. Do you guys know any other guys that really just came up looking like units, but they just didn't have that chin? Because I feel like there's been so many of those guys. I can't think of them, but I see all their souls every time Wellington Turman gets knocked out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the guys that just didn't have the chin, but usually when you see it with these, like, young guys that look like that, it's more that they've got a little bit of that, like, quit in them. But this guy, he doesn't even get the chance to get to that point, really. It's over before that ever happens. Wes?
Clean.
Yeah, that ground and pound from Silva was nuts. And I kind of like Silva going into this fight, but coming off a USADA suspension, you're like, was it the gear that was he was throwing all this power with? And apparently not. I mean, like Dan just said about Thurman's chin, though, like, maybe he does have a slightly bad chin early, which is kind of crazy. But man, that ground and pound was vicious, and I'm intrigued by Silva now. I wanna see some more, and hopefully it is pure power. And he was just one of those guys that got caught doing the bad shit that's traceable at this point, because I'm sure there's still a lot that like to do the gams that get the good shit. So
did he get a performance of the night bonus? Because maybe he can afford the good stuff moving forward.
Get the good shit, Bruno. Get the good shit.
And we're just going to keep the train rolling as far as the chins go here, because featherweight division, Sung Woo Choi reminded us all that Julian Erosa is in fact Julian Erosa. And man, he got smoked like a Juicy J, if you will. Yes.
Yeah, man, look, Julian Erosa has cost me a little here lately, but he is who I thought he was. And I think Choi's pretty good, man. I know he had a tough couple fights against some guys that have come back and looked really, really good as of late, and Eloev and Tucker, I believe.
Yep.
But Choi's really young, man. Just a massive guy for this division. And I know it's Julian Erosa, though, so we need to see another one. But I think Choi could be pretty damn good.
Dan?
I found out I'm more Portuguese than Korean, but I will say Choi is making us proud of it. He's really doing the Asian solid, right? He's a stud, like you guys said, and I shouldn't have overlooked him. I paid the price for it. I took a shot on Juicy J, and I'll just sum it up with, I think, I always joke, and there's a chance to use the Ferris Bueller's Day Off gif of Cameron going, "I'm dying," because that's who Rosa looks like, Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But I think that movie really, was trying to tell us something. We think it's the flu, but no guy with the flu goes and has that day with Ferris, right? I think the motherfucker Rosa was concussed. All right. He was concussed in that movie. That's why he's all emotional through the whole day, right? And the movie cuts off, but I even though he accepted that he wrecked his dad's car, his dad came home and beat the shit out of him, man. And he really did a number on that chin. So now you fast forward, he's in the UFC. He's getting kicked over in Cage Warriors. He can't win. All this emotional baggage, and that chin is just getting chipped away. And I think Choi knew it. He came out here and knocked him out. So I'll take the L.
That is quite the breakdown, sir. That is,
story time, break time.
Yeah, that's right. That's worked in a little movie action in there. That's everything that we come to do at this show. For me, I don't know how I got scared off this one. Probably because of Nate fucking Landwehr, because I was on Choi in his last fight, and I was against Rosa in his last fight.
The price came down too. Like the hour before the fight, I think Choi got down to -140 or -135 or something, which was just crazy.
Damn. It happens. Next up in the bantamweight division, we had a rematch that everyone kind of thought was going to go the other way, then happened the first time, and it did. Although I have to say that Davey Grant put on a way better performance than I anticipated. I thought this was going to be a lot more one-sided, and even though he got the hurt put on him a little bit in this fight, especially from some of those elbows, he made another good account for himself. I don't know what it is with these, old British dudes with busted wheels coming back and turning themselves into strikers, but Davey Grant is. I'm enjoying the renaissance, even if it didn't result in a victory here. Dan?
Yeah, what is that? I feel like from Brad Pickett to Bisping to unless you're Tom Breeze, you're English, you're getting better with age. I feel like everyone but Tom. I'm not trying to pick on Tom Breeze there, man. But
hey, Tom Breeze is going to come back into the UFC at 35 years old. His head's going to be straight. Everything's going to be good, and that man's going to become a champion or something.
Yeah, Davey Grant looks like someone's dad. He is a dad. I hope his kids can recognize him because he looked like something out of one of Tim Burton's animated movies with the stitches and stuff after that fight. That was scary, man. It's too tough for your own good right there. But he's an easy guy to root for because I like weird guys who overachieve. But I was on Vera here. I think I might have had him in a small parlay for fun, but there wasn't much to pair with. And he was pretty juiced up, so I wasn't any strong on an angle on this fight. I just figured Vera would pull it out. And Vera is the same guy, but better. He still kind of has slow starts. He can be hit a lot early, but he turns it on, and he's adding those elbows with his body work that he already does, and I'm all about it. So he doesn't have to be a top 5 fighter for me. Just keep Vera in fun fights, and we'll see what we can do.
Wes?
Yeah, that Davey Grant did take a beating in this one, man. This was just a guy that left hook wasn't going to get out of there. He wasn't going to get Vera out of there with that one-shot left hook that he'd been catching on guys. It was just not going to have Vera. I thought Vera was a gift, personally. -200, I thought that was just crazy here. We talked about it on the show last week that from their first fight, Davey Grant had fought 4 times, to where Marlon Vera had fought 17 times or something like that. He had completely turned into a different fighter, moved way up the rankings, was fighting high-level opponents while Davey Grant was injured and not fighting and stuff. So the change of who these fighters were when they fought the first time to this time was massive. And I thought it was a way bigger gap than -200 personally. Vera's a decent fighter, man. I'm not sure he's ever going to be top 5 material or anything like that, but I think he's a guy that you could match up against younger dudes that you think might be able to break through, and he's the kind of gatekeeper type guy to maybe your top 10, top 7 kind of prospects at this point, and he's going to be a tough out.
Absolutely. And finally on this card, Sergey Spivak. I don't know how I didn't actually have a bigger play on this, because I talked about it on the podcast. I said over 1.5 here. It was like plus 135, plus 140, and I don't know. I need to go back and listen to the podcast myself, get us our like 8th or 9th view of the week, and make whatever plays I suggest, and I would probably make some more money. But I'm dumb and I don't do that. And got the decision over the old man, Alexei Olenek. He tried for the Ezekiel choke at one point, just wasn't there. Wes?
Yeah, I had a pretty good size bet on Vera and Spivak together. I really like Spivak in this fight. And we've made fun of the guy on the show quite a bit in the past.
There's nobody we haven't made fun of on the show.
Yeah, he's not that bad as a heavyweight, man. He's decent on the feet. He has some pretty good takedown defense in this fight. I know he did give up a couple takedowns, I believe, but that choke just at this point, it's not going to work on guys that just aren't just horrible and not know anything what they're doing on the mat. And I think Olenek is like 45 or something now, which is just it's crazy, man. He's way too old to be fighting. We've seen him get completely obliterated by a couple heavyweights before this fight too. So I think it's about time for Alexei to probably call it, or maybe go fight some bums over, overseas or something. But Spivak's okay, man. I guess it's the division. We're talking about, just the level of a division. When we talk about heavyweights now, not necessarily, the fighters in it. And Spivak's a decent guy in that division. So we'll see.
Dan?
Yeah, man. You guys nailed it, and I should have kept my original pick as Spivak. I actually went back, which I rarely do with staff picks at a junkie, and I changed it to Grandpa. I think that dang PFL, just someone got Ezekiel, and I was like, oh, it's a sign, Grandpa. I went a little too deep. I got a little too carried away with the old man. The Brown I got away with. This one I did not, clearly. And who it reminds me of, because you guys are saying it's the division, how good is he? I'm still not impressed with him, although I've been wrong about Spivak clearly, so I want to give him his credit here. But let's just say I can see why he went tooth and nail with Tabora, because he's going to be that fighter where he's either going to come out and deceptively overperform in a really unimpressive way, or he's just going to get randomly blown out of the water, even if you think he's going to lose. So it's that consistency, but also the consistent toughness. He's got like a little bit of both, and he's getting to be pretty well-rounded, even though he's not going to like blow you out of the water in one way. It was enough to get the job done here against a old Olenek. So we'll see what Spivak gets going forward.
Old Olenek. There you go. All right, that's way too long of a recap for a card like that, but we will move on to this week's offering. We've got 13 fights. Honestly, some of them are going to be real quick, but we're going to kick it off in the lightweight division. We have the rebooking of Jaynes Medeiros and Damir Hadžović. Dan, I'll let you kick this one off, since I'm sure you have some inherent bias in this one.
Well, is Hadžović Portuguese? Sorry.
With that kind of name?
No,
probably like 3% or so.
Hey, man, I like Hadžović, not here, but I've liked him before, so I don't think I'm overlooking him here. He's been at Rumble Sports, though. I think he might have just stuck around because this fight was like a rebooked. Something happened with one of them. I forget. I think Hadžović or Yancey. I can't remember. And so they're going to go at it again. The line was a little tighter with Yancey still the dog. And I honestly thought it was going to be – should have been pushed to even with like maybe open. Yancey is a slight favorite, better competition. So to see – even though it's not a strong lean, but just out of principle, I think the wrong guy's favored. I took a shot at Medeiros. Excuse me. I just think that like the wrestling and the grappling, he's not going to get out grappled there. And striking, if his chin holds up, which I like that Medeiros has only fought like once in 2 years because he's super experienced. I'm not worried about that layoff. Guys coming back from layoffs are doing like really good right now. So I took a shot on Medeiros. I don't know how you guys feel, and I'm not telling anybody to follow me off that cliff, but that's where my money's at.
Wes?
Yeah, I remember we kind of broke this down last time. I kind of had a hard time picking a side last time. I think I might have been favoring Hadžović, just because I think he can put a little more pressure on. But I think what I liked before and what I even like now in this fight is fight doesn't go or the under here. I think these guys are going to get in some exchanges. Yancey always seems to have exchanges in his fights, and whether his chin holds up or not here, Yancey's got a little power. So I think one of these guys are going to get finished within the 15 minutes. I think the line was a little closer last time, so maybe that's kind of how I leaned with Hadžović. I think it should be more of a pick 'em, and Yancey being at plus 125 or so, that's probably one of those to just pick the dog here in our little pick 'em contest in Toutmaster. And I like the under inside the distance. I think one of these guys gets they get into some exchanges and somebody gets out of there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with both you guys on this one. I lean a bit towards Yancey. I lean to him in the first booking of this fight. I just did a quick search on the old Google machine, and apparently the fight was scrapped last time around due to Hadžović having some health issues. Doesn't sound like COVID, but
it was just like a month ago, though, right?
Yeah,
too, so.
A poor weight cut or something like that pulled that off the card. So that's a thing. And going into that first fight, it was actually Yancey as a short notice replacement for somebody else. I don't remember. So now Yancey's had some more time to train and get a little bit ready for the fight, knowing who the opponent is, all that sort of stuff. And we're getting a bit of a bigger line than we got the first time around. So I do like Yancey. I also think there's probably going to be a finish in this fight. So that under is tempting as well. Combining those two things, I have no idea what Yancey inside the distance is. A quick look at the now terrible best fight odds says it's Yancey inside is plus 400, which is kind of intriguing. But I might just sprinkle on Yancey and then that under just to see if I can hit a couple on this one. And I don't know if I did that or if Dan did that, but all right.
It's me.
Oh,
that desert internet.
I'm good.
All right, perfect. So I like Yancey, and I lean towards the under as well. Moving down to the featherweight division, it's just going to be all Dan Tom bias for this entire card. We've got Boston Strong Charles Rosa. That was terrible, by the way. I always need to start off with like my khakis in the pack, and then you can really get into the Boston accent. And he's taking on Extreme Couture's Justin Jaynes. But we'll start off with Wes this time.
Yeah, this is another kind of tricky fight. I feel like if Rosa can get any kind of consistent takedowns in this fight, he's got a really good chance of maybe getting a win, getting a sub here. But
it's Charles Rosa, right?
I think Jaynes is a pretty decent defensive wrestler. He can kind of keep this on the feet, and I think he's got an advantage on the feet against Charles Rosa. So it's a tough fight. I could see it going either way, man. Jaynes is a dog here, so I'm kind of going to lean that he keeps his fight on the feet, and it turns into mostly a striking battle. And I think he's got some advantages up there. I think he's got some better hands. He's got some better hand speed. And like Brad said, Charles Rosa's like not the best takedown guy to get it into his world. So gonna lean Jaynes here, and it's another fight that I think we could possibly see a finish. I think Jaynes could possibly get a finish on the feet, and I think if Rosa does find a way to get this to the mat, that he could find a submission in this fight. So I'm going to pick Jaynes. I don't have a bet on this fight at this point, but looking at maybe Jaynes at the line creeps up a little more, or maybe Jaynes inside the distance or something like that at a big price.
Dan, I know that Wes talked about Justin Jaynes' hands. Tell me, because I know you're going to tell me about Justin Jaynes' leg kicks.
I wish I didn't have to tell you. I wish you would just show it in one of these fights, because I'm like, where did this go? And like, it might even just not like one of those things that he does in the gym, not does in the fights. So he's actually got like leg kick stoppages in his pro record. You know, this goes back, and he's got like 100 amateur fights because he came from Michigan. And folks that don't know that Michigan had a weird loophole where they would pay amateurs. So he was wrestling like I don't know I think he was a Division I or Division II team. But like he you know, he didn't get any crazy accolades or anything. He was an All-American, but while he was wrestling, he fought just amateurs, right? So I don't know, man. I'm biased, but I'm also worried there's going to be another extreme couture guy like Matt Powell, where you see all this greatness in the gym, and you don't really see it come out in fights. So I'm not saying that he's got a high ceiling or anything. I'm just saying, like, hey, I'm not going to lie, he hasn't done great. So I don't blame anybody on Rosa here. And the Medeiros and Hadžović fight, like I actually like Rosa too, and like I put my money down on the guy. I like the in-and-out karate styling, but it's not that effective. The judges don't like it, especially now with damage. And Jaynes is going to be the more damaging striker, kind of like what Wes was saying. So I took Jaynes here biasly, but I do think that he can win the fight in the small cage. It'll make exchanges that favor him. But even though I think that he can get it inside the distance, I actually play the over 2.5 at like minus 115 or minus 110. I think it's back at minus 110, but it got as low as minus 105. And for me, that was kind of a hedge on my biased play and possibly doubling down, because this could be one of the few fights that like Jaynes could win a decision, because Jaynes doesn't have a great gas tank, but he's actually fighting at 145, which means he had to get in shape for this one. And Rosa's not a guy to push a dogfight as far as like pocket boxing. That's where he gets lit up. So I don't know if he's going to even be able to force the kind of changes to tire Jaynes. So I actually like the over as an angle here, but I'm also kicking for coverage with just money line Jaynes.
Yeah, I don't hate either of those. I definitely in any sort of Charles Rosa fight, when he wasn't able to make an under happen against Derek Minner, who had gone under in like 95% of his career fights. This dude, his number one skill is being really tough. And those sorts of guys, they're not going to have a ton of success in terms of winning fights. But they aren't going to get finished a whole lot. And I think that's been very true of Charles Rosa's entire career. And also, you know, he's got a couple submissions on his records. You know, once he's got up to the major levels, obviously a bunch more early on in his career. But, man, stuff like that. I know, Dan, you were talking about the over 2.5, but even like the over 1.5 at minus 170, if you're a little bit more worried about Jaynes' gas tank, that looks good. But yeah, I was kind of looking at the same sort of Jaynes by decision. It's sitting around there at like plus 450 right now, which is extremely high, considering this is kind of a pick'em fight. And if Rosa can't control the wrestling, like you said, he doesn't have that kind of striking style that really scores well with the judges. And as our boy Beast Mode pointed out in the chat, Jaynes and team are betting on themselves, which you always like to see.
He talked about like putting everything he has on himself. Like, I guess whatever's in his bank account, he bet on himself.
He's a pro poker player, man. Anytime I would leave Mandalay Bay Studios, I would see like Justin like half the time, like from the night before, just like killing people that are half tired at the poker table. So that isn't something to hear.
Love it. Speaking of the Mandalay, Dan, next time I'm able to make it down to Vegas, we've got a pro lacrosse team that's going to be starting up in Vegas in winter of 2022. And they're going to be playing out of the Mandalay Arena. I don't know what the hell it's called these days. We'll say the Mandalay Event Center. That's what it used to be. But yeah, I'm gonna take your ass out to a lacrosse game.
Do it. I don't even know shit about I don't even know shit about lacrosse, but I can already like make this assumption that how jealous are all the teams going to be of a Las Vegas-based lacrosse team? Like, how much of a kick is that, Brad?
Yeah, I like all of the sports are getting into it now. It's I feel like there's a legitimate hometown advantage, even though you're going to have like visiting fans and stuff coming in. Just the experience of traveling there and having to play there and spend time there is so different from traveling to any other city that it's a little bit more of a baked-in advantage. Although I can't believe, I mean, I don't really pay attention to hockey other than what Sean tells me to bet. But it's going to be funny if Vegas loses to Montreal, who's shitty, apparently. Speaking of shitty, women's bantamweight division, Julia Avila taking on Julija Stoliarenko. This is the exclusively armbar from guard. What country is she from? Bulgaria? I don't recognize that flag. I apologize to the country of Lithuania. Damn it. That's
watch out, Brad.
All of our Lithuanian fans, they're just going to light me up. Oh, man. Anyway, this is a fight. People were excited about Avila once upon a time, right? And Stoliarenko's put on some really bad fights. I remember one where she got pushed up against the cage a lot, and that was a thing that happened. So break it down for me, Dan. What's going on here?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know why I told you to watch out. I mean, I'm the Asian one over here. I should watch out. But no, just kidding. I think Avila doesn't look like she, unlike me, Avila looks like she has no Chinese in her. So I think she should be all right. Any personal type of motivations for this fight, so we can just look at what's on paper. And I honestly didn't look at much. Like, again, I know, especially as of late, I may try to, speak up and, and try to, be a good person, air quotes and whatnot, and try to stick up for, these groups and, the ladies that don't get the love they deserve. But here I am, like, I'm doing like the dog walk Brad routine, because when it comes to breaking down the cards, I don't get to these fights. I don't have anything for this fight. I'm not going to take someone's shtick and do. I've already done too much movie talk anyways. So I'll just say that I took Avila, and just like Kamer, stay the fuck away.
There you go. Wes, you're all over this one from a betting perspective, right?
No, not at all. Yeah, what Dan said. Let's move on.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I got nothing as well. I'm not betting this. I say I'm not betting this, and then we move up to an absolutely horrible light heavyweight fight that I am betting. So, equal opportunity or whatever. Wes, we've got, I know this flag. That's the Polish flag, right? Yeah. Prachnio.
Yeah.
From Poland, although fighting out of the Netherlands, apparently. And he is taking on Ike Villanueva. Man, what a scrap this one is.
Yeah, I honestly can't believe that Ike Villanueva is still fighting, much less
coming off a win, man.
Come on, dude. Like, who didn't he? What was it? Yeah, Venetians he knocked out the last one. Look, I think they're gonna swing and bang in this one. That's what Ike does. Is Ike tough enough to stay in there and last from Prachnio's the bombs he's gonna be throwing? I mean, maybe. Like, seriously, maybe Ike might take some of these for a round. And I mean, we've seen him do it. I mean, he's been around for 100 years, man. There's been as big, tough guys that have beat on that old man, and he's stayed in there and gotten him out of there. That last fight with Prachnio against Roundtree, though, I think we had that fight like inside the distance or under or some shit like that. And
everyone did.
It was just insane to watch. I don't know how that fight went 15 minutes. I can't see this fight going 15 minutes. I really can't. I kind of like the fight inside the distance here. It's juiced up, but I just can't see any way that this fight makes it 15 minutes. I kind of looked at Prachnio by TKO. It's just not big enough to take a shot here because, like I said, I would not be surprised if Ike takes a beating for, say, 6 or 7 minutes and Prachnio starts to gas out from beating on him so bad. How many times do we see that with some of these dudes? And Ike gets him out of there. So I'm gonna pick Prachnio. We'll probably bet the under or something like that. Maybe fight inside the distance and a small parlay. But man, I want to like Prachnio. He's got some bad losses before his last time against Roundtree. Did he turn a corner, or is he just that same guy that got knocked out in the first round by, I believe, Sam Alvey and shit? So I'm gonna pick him. Looking at the under.
Yeah, this is one of those ones. I'm going to get to you in a second, Dan, but where my math brain just explodes because you've got fight doesn't go anywhere from minus 165 to minus 200, but you can get under 2.5 at minus 125.
Yeah.
Like, is there really an 80% chance that this fight gets finished in the last 2.5 minutes? Like,
yeah, good point.
That's just one of those things where, like, you know, a mathematical tip for bettors is if you're betting under, or if you think there's going to be a stoppage, bet the under instead of the fight doesn't go. And if you think that the fight is going to go a little bit longer, instead of taking the over, take the fight does go to decision, because more often than not, when fights get finished, they get finished in the first round. And if they get past the first round, they go to decision. Mathematically, it's a good thing to do. You'll be pissed off those couple times where you lose a fight in the last 2.5 minutes. But in the long run, and you'll probably remember those, which is why these lines are so off. But in the long run, you'll make more money doing the thing that I just said that I'm not going to explain again. Dan.
I really like that. I may have to add that to my angle because I, too, like many things, I'll fully admit, I'm a hypocrite like Brad. And we'll put our money on low-level crap. And I'm like, what did this silly bastard put his money on? I'm like, to borrow a slogan from Ike Eisenhower's campaign from the 50s, I too like Ike. And I invested in him. I don't feel great about it, but that angle makes me feel a little bit better because I essentially think it's going to go the way Wes does, and he didn't put it this way. I'll put words in Wes's mouth. Why not? Like, if Ike's got a piece on him, like, this is his fight to show it, because if he's going to win, he's gonna be taking it up front, and he's going to have to come from behind, come hard from behind. So there's my breakdown. A nice in shape Eastern European man, and you've got a dude that's going to come hard from behind. That's quite the breakdown, Dan. Thanks for coming out. Honestly, I won't be able to get the Alvey fight. The Ankalaev one, that's forgivable, and the slow Mike fight out of my head when it comes to Prachnio for a while. I think I actually took a shot on him in the Rodriguez fight, which, in hindsight, after that fight looked awful. And then after the Roundtree fight, looked like I was a genius, just one fight too late, or one fight too early, sorry. But I can't do that again. With this guy as a minus 200 favorite, I would definitely be leaning more towards Ike. I like the under 2.5. I think that gives you a lot of time for something to go wrong for either of these guys. Minus 125 there is a great line to me. And I'm actually going to look at a little bit of Ike round 1, because one of my books has that at plus 700, which is
just a touch too high. And by a touch, I mean like a couple dollars too high, I think, in this spot. So that's what I'm looking at. I don't feel confident about Ike at all in this spot, but gonna take the little shot here just because Prachnio owes me a little bit of money after some of the things he's done to me thus far in his UFC career.
Sounds naughty.
The Poles and the Ukrainians, there's some stuff going on there, Dan. All right, next up in the welterweight division, we've got this week's namesake of the show, Jeremiah Wells, a Bullfrog, taking on Warley Alves. We love Warley. People, Dan, I know that you've got thoughts about Warley, so I'll let you go first on this one because he does things habitually, but seems like a good spot for Warley here. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I got to come clean. And, especially not just because you guys were nice to my guy. I got to be nice to yours. But no. Honestly, it's a couple punches here. And I've overdone it on Warley. And I use him for examples too much, I think I got a little too high off that Brian Barberina cash back in the day. And, Warley, I don't know if he's a changed man, but he sharpened a lot of what Warley does well. And I think he reminded a lot of the masses with that Munir Lazez line movement that kind of did, not kind of, it did disrespect him. I did officially pick Lazez here, but that just had the fingerprints of, fading the wrong guy all over it. And I've been criminal against Warley in that regard, so I'll come clean. But Warley's gotten, better in that regard, and I think this is a fight he should win. I wasn't able to look up much on Jeremiah Wells, aside that this guy is pretty much an action fighter from all reports. And I don't want to say comes hard early, but you guys get what I'm trying to say here. I'm actually going to go with Warley Alves, though, because, he's sensual about him. He's tough and he's got a chin. I think his gas tank's more of his enemy than his chin. So if he does get hit with some hard shots, I like him to withstand it better. Whereas if Wells does, even though he's not like a super wrestler guy, but he clinches, or we've even seen him with Warley where you don't even have to go for a takedown. You can just be like eating the heat, and you're like, I want to calm him down, push him up against the fence, and keep my head high, and he'll still like reach down, and even if you're Colby Covington, and get you. So that's kind of how I see this one going. It's probably going to be a dog fight early, and then Warley is going to probably get the better of it, maybe with the good old guillotine.
Ooh. Wes?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I'm on the other side of the Warley love, though. I've loved me some Warley since way back on a Tough Brazil. Love that dude from that show. I think Dan's right though. Like he's definitely tightened his game up a lot lately. The gas tank has always been the worry. It's still slightly a worry with Warley. His past couple losses in between his wins have been times when guys have taken him into the second and third round, and he doesn't have that that explosive power and jumping for that guillotine and stuff. So is this the guy that can push Warley like that though and get this into the second and third round? I don't think so. I think his path is to get him out of there early too. So I think Wells is going to bring it. I think he's going to come forward. I think that's going to be bad against a guy like Warley. Maybe he can get him to the cage. That's where you get into that area to where Warley will reach down and grab something. He will jump up and grab a neck. We've seen his chokes are vicious, man, when he jumps up and gets one on somebody. So I kind of like Warley inside the distance here. It's around even money at this point. You're getting it a whole lot cheaper than him straight. I think Wells is UFC debut. He's an action fighter, like Dan said. He's going to come forward and bring the heat, and that plays into Warley's game. Warley knows he needs to get guys that he can out of there early. He knows his cardio is still kind of a question mark. Not that he can't go 3 rounds. He's won some decisions, but he puts himself in grave danger, especially when it gets to the third round. So I think he's going to get him out of there. I like Warley inside the distance at around even money.
Yeah, this is probably about as perfect a spot as it gets for Warley. And I think this line is still disrespecting him. I think there's still those people out there that, they think he's going to gas and he's going to lose. But I think, honestly, even if he gasses in this fight, he's going to have another gas guy on across the cage
Same
from
thing.
him.
Yeah.
This is short notice for Wells. UFC debut. He's 34. He's significantly older than Warley. And honestly, he's never fought anybody close to as good as Warley. So there's a lot of things going against him in this spot. I really think that if he comes out and he wants to throw a lot of heat early, then Warley's going to put it back at him. And I think that what Warley's bringing back at him is going to be a whole lot more than what Wells is used to and what he's had in the past. So I like that Warley inside the distance. I think Warley's probably okay for parlays because I was actually a little surprised that we were only looking at a minus 225 here. And bless bet 365. Everybody else has Warley round one at like plus 200 around that area. They threw a plus 300 out there, so I had to take some of that because I think more times than not, that's probably how this fight ends. If he gets the stoppage, he's getting into the first round. So a couple little different things on Warley there. Sticking around in the welterweight division, I believe that we have my pick for breakout fighter of the year in the welterweight division, the Shaved Cat. But he's up against it. He's taking on the returning Mountain Yam man himself, Tractor
right.
Prazeres.
Damn right.
Wes, you're gonna have to fill me in on all the latest and greatest in tractor and yard work equipment, because I'm sure that Prazeres is in it. Because I know he's not in PFL yet, but this man has had a couple of years to just find that right concoction. So what's he bringing into this fight?
I mean, this dude's he's the big boy. He's like the yeah. If there was a yam buffet, Tractor he's been at the table. I mean, this man in PFL would look like fucking Paul Harris to the 10th fucking degree, man. It would be nasty if that guy got over there. I like though Shaved Cat, man. I think he's pretty decent. I think he's probably going to win this fight. I know he's got a ton of finishes against guys over in M1 and shit, but Tractor is way he's way tougher than that, man. I'm not sure that though Shaved Cat is going to be able to pull off a sub on here. He's got a lot of subs on his record. I think this it's kind of a slow paced. Typical Prazeres fight, man, and I think that Shaved Cat's going to get kind of a close but clear decision here. Going to probably be a lot of staring on the feet, a lot of one punch strikes by Prazeres to keep distance and shit like he always does. And I kind of like Shaved Cat by decision here. I think that's around plus 250 or so. I just have a hard time seeing him get Prazeres out of this fight. Prazeres doesn't get finished by anybody. He just isn't action enough in fights to put himself in those situations to where he finishes anybody or anybody finishes him. And I mean, the guy's only lost before his last fight, lost once in 6 years or some shit like that. And that was the Kevin Lee, I believe. So he doesn't lose a lot of fights. I do think he's just getting old and on the back end. I like Shaved Cat. I think he's a good fighter. He's going to win a close but a clear decision here, plus 250.
Yeah, prior to his last fight, his only career losses were short notice UFC debut back when he actually was a lightweight, and he went up to welterweight and fought Paulo Thiago. Very underrated historically, Paulo Thiago. That dude was fun. And Kevin Lee. So neither of them finished eligible. So that's an interesting angle to look at. Dan, what do you got here?
Yeah, I forgot that he fought the fellow Bope Brazilian in Paulo Thiago, and
Yep.
Does that make his yams state-sponsored yams? Because I got to imagine they want those guys healthy, right? I mean, they're sending those dudes into the favelas. You need Tractor as healthy as possible.
Well, they just got to bust down the doors, right? They don't have battering rams in the Brazilian police. They just got to run through it.
They just use Tractor. He's so stout. And I joke because really West honestly nailed that, man. I couldn't have said any more perfect as far as how I see this fight going to even how Tractor is. I don't know that maybe that's why you got that segue, which by the way, full disclosure, when I first started listening to West come on the show, I thought the Sodomy maybe had to do with butt stuff because I saw his Twitter timeline. I was like, oh, Sodomy, okay. I had no clue. Like it was like, oh, okay, I get it. I said, now I understand the segues, but just full disclosure, forever I thought it had to do with butt stuff. Anyways,
I mean, it still might.
I mean, Aaron literally thought I was British for like 2 years. Our boy Aaron Bronister, he thought I was British for like the longest
True UK
time.
baby. True UK. I love it. I see that too. I think it's I like Shavkat. And by the way, how unfortunate, like, even if like the way Shavkat looks, like, even if his name wasn't Shavkat, you could be like, hey, doesn't that guy look like a shaved cat? You'd be like, yeah, he kind of does. Like, how unfortunate that the guy gets the name Shavkat. That's so fucked up. But I really like him. He looks like a strong Uzbek. One of those, it's like where my people start mixing with the Russians and it gets confusing, but they're really, it's like Tiger Woods, but like with Russian, you got. Yeah, you got the Asian determination, but you got that Russian toughness. It's like this crazy amalgamation, right? So I don't know. No, honestly, he's got a good game. I'm just curious because he will go for guillotines and left hooks, and that's like the worst thing you can do against like a short guy who wants to take you down and is a jiu-jitsu specialist, because the way Wes described them is even how like Tractor did jiu-jitsu, because like he mentioned Paul Harris, like those dudes, they're just survivors because they know they're like tree stumps and they're not going to get submitted. So instead of using length and like normal body advantages, they'll be like, I'm going to make you play my game and get tired. So it could be a really ugly fight, but I'm going to take Shavkat.
That neck. There's no way you're getting his neck. It's not there. It's like anatomically impossible to get that man's neck.
Yeah. So I know I like Shavkat as well. I like the shaved cat. He seems like a very good fighter. But I have to side with the 5'6" welterweight in this spot. I mean, this dude is just gonna push the skinny Asian fella up against the cage. Sorry, Dan, it's gonna happen. Look at all the muscles on the one side. Look how long and lean he is on the other side.
Hey, 3.5% of me is not arguing with you right now. Go ahead.
And honestly, I think I heard this on Paul and Cody's show. He has taken down every single one of his 13 UFC opponents. Damn. And he's got something ridiculous, like almost 50 takedowns in his 13 UFC fights. And honestly, if Hellboy was able to push the Shave Cat up against the fence and hold him there for a bit until it got to quitting time, because he's about that alimony check. That's what he's there for. Tractor's going to be able to do the same thing. He's just going to set up the old Tonka truck and back this dude up to the cage, get some takedowns. I can see it getting ugly. I could see Shave Cat even helping him out a little bit and jumping for a guillotine or two that is certainly not going to be there. And I'm going to take Prazeres by decision in this one. I do also like the overs. Again, this is another one where like I don't really understand over 1.5 only being minus 170. I don't think there's going to be a finish extremely early in this fight. Maybe if Tractor's that old and coming off this layoff and all those things, you'll see him gas and maybe get stopped later on in the fight. But historically, he's been so tough that I'm not sure that happens. So you've got over 1.5 minus 170, over 2.5 even money. Fight goes plus 120. I think all of those are worthy of a little bit of thought in this spot. So I'll take probably the over and maybe a little sprinkle on Prazeres by decision, plus 450, plus 500. I think it's out there at. So that's what I'm going to be looking at here. Next up, we are in, once again, that beautiful light heavyweight division for a showdown between another Brazilian grappler, not quite as muscular as the last dude, Danilo Marques, taking on, my namesake, my Chuck brother, Kenny Nunchucks. Wes, what we got going on here?
Yeah, this is a tough fight for me. I think Danilo's got some okay, jiu-jitsu and shit, but can he get this there? Can he get our boy Kenny Nunchucks to the mat? On the feet, I think our boy Kenny can piece him up, but I didn't get to go back and see. I believe the Craig fight, he kind of just fell into Craig like most dudes do and got choked out. I guess if that happens here, then Danilo could get a sub on him, but I think it stays up and our boy Kenny Nunchucks throw some heat on him. I kind of more like the under in this fight. I think that's kind of the two ways that this fight plays out. If it stays on the feet, I think that our boy Kenny's gonna end up getting him out of there. But man, we watched what happened in his only loss when he got to the mat with Paul Craig. Not saying that this guy's Paul Craig by any means. Like, don't get me wrong. Even though he's a Brazilian, we know how that Scottish BJJ is doing these days. So I do see a finish though in this fight, one way or the other. I'm going to pick our boy Kenny Nunchucks. I think he keeps it on the feet. He eventually catches him with something, but I think it's more safe that if this does hit the mat, we've seen him have some problems. So I'm going to play the under, pick our boy Kenny Nunchucks.
Dan, while you were gone, don't worry. We already talked about the familial relationship between myself and Kenny Nunchucks. All us Chucks in our name. We all go back through the same threads. So we got that going on. But what else are your thoughts on this fight?
My thoughts are I'm looking at the prop because they finally just dropped for Marques by submission. That's what I was waiting for. Plus 230 in one of the 240 in one of the houses I played, and of course one of the other house is late and is always late, so whatever. But yeah, that's kind of where my head's at. Maybe it's overcorrecting because I was bummed that I missed that opportunity last time on Marques. But I feel like in the small cage, it's going to favor the guy who wants to grapple. His wrestling's nothing to write home about, but he definitely has some like mechanical and functional single leg stuff, which makes sense because he trained either as a black belt under Maya or the guy who gave Maya his black belt, but has been training King's MMA with southpaws like Vittori, which I believe Kenny Nunchucks is a southpaw. And I hate picking against Save Sayu guy, man. I came in initially leaning toward Kennedy, as I'm not surprised that he's a favorite, but I took a piece on Marques at plus money, and as you can hear me, I'm going to be sprinkling right now on him by sub.
I do not hate that at all, and as much as 5 dimes isn't what it used to be, they've got a plus 315 hanging out there by sub right now. So I think I might have to sprinkle on that myself, because if Darko Stozic can get in there and take you down a bunch of times, and obviously the official decision is one thing, and those nut shots certainly probably played a role in how that fight played out. But if Darko can, if the points weren't taken away, if he can win a decision over you and continue to take you down, I think Marques can probably get him down here too. You know how I feel about tall people, and Kenny Nunchucks is 6'5". It's a little too tall for my liking, a little too gangly, probably not very coordinated. He can take a punch. He can make a striking battle fun, but I don't think he's going to hold up so well when it comes to grappling here. So I'm probably going to sprinkle on that sub plus 315, and not sure if I want to dive in on Marques straight. It's kind of even money or a little bit of plus money across the board, but I could see maybe some repeated takedowns and him winning a decision here as well. Although the submission seems more up my alley for sure. All right, we are now. Apparently, this is the main card. There are some recognizable names on here, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. In the lightweight division, we have Jai Herbert. I'm sure Dan will give us an accent on that one to pronounce it properly. Taking on Renato Moicano. And I think we'll start with Dan here.
Yeah, I don't know if I got an accent for Jai. I haven't heard him talk much. He is an Englishman, but I could have swore when I saw him face another kind of gangly fighter who was an Englishman, and Reese McKee, who apparently, if you beat him, you're in talks of fighting Luke Rockhold and Leon Edwards, and I didn't realize Reese McKee was the new gatekeeper. All respect to him, but he got not only got knocked out by Reese McKee, but I believe he even got out grappled against the cage. Now, obviously, he did some work to our guy before getting knocked out. Obviously, we ended up being on the right side. I know you guys are obviously Grandpa Chernobyl fans.
Of course.
So I think there's some upside to Herbert, but the layoff, the matchups, the really vicious knockout loss, and again, he's already suffered knockout losses on the regional. It makes me hard to back him here. So I don't blame anybody taking the shot on the dog. I got no dogs in this fight, no money here, but my pick's going to be Moicano. I think both of them are going to fight safe and maybe uncharacteristically, since they both kind of got nuked in different ways in their last fight.
Wes.
Yeah, I'm leaning Moicano here too. I think this is a fight that Moicano's got to win. I think they're giving him a fight that he can win here too. His last 3 losses are against 2 of the absolute best in the division, and then a guy that
doesn't matter.
Well, one that's probably pretty decent and hits like a fucking truck at this point, which is untypically Russian. Dude actually has some hands and shit. I don't even really know what to think of Jai Herbert. Like Dan was talking about, he got obliterated by Grandpa Chernobyl in his last time out. I watch a little bit of Cage Warriors, but not as closely as other stuff. And he was just beating the guys that just blowing through guys over there. He was supposed to beat. Dan brings up Reese McKee, of course, who knocked him out. So he's got some pretty tough KO losses on his record. I think Dan's probably right that Moicano does fight really reserved in this fight coming up the last time, but maybe Jai Herbert that's not his style and won't let Moicano do that. And I think this might get into some firefight situations at points, and I trust Moicano's chin a little better than I do Jai Herbert's. The guys that he's been knocked out by are just way better than even Grandpa Chernoby's hands. Moicano by KO is like plus 500. I don't know if he's necessarily gonna get a KO, but I could see a finish here. I could see maybe him getting a sub. He hurts him and gets a sub at some point, but I'm kind of looking at Moicano inside the distance, maybe a sprinkle on him by TKO, because I just think that number's kind of crazy. But I think Moicano wins this fight. I think he gets back on track. This is some of the lowest level competition. Not taking anything away from Jai Herbert, but this is definitely a step down in class for Moicano in a fight that I think he should definitely win. So Moicano inside the distance for me, and probably a sprinkle on him by KO.
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about that angle, but I just want to double back for a second before we really dive into this fight, because, just a quick Google of the old Rafael Fizzy Pop, and it shows that he's not, in fact, Russian. He was born in Kyrgyzstan, and he went to the Kyrgyzstan Police Academy. So what I really want to know is, in the Kyrgyzstan version of those movies? Did he play the Gutenberg role, or was he more of a Michael Winslow guy?
Oh my god!
I think he's more of Michael Winslow guy with the social media videos he was doing for a little bit there, where he was really trying to be funny. Like Gutenberg, no matter the movie, only funny things happen to him more, than really output.
Maybe
It's
Gutenberg
cool.
can
It's
be
a good
one
pull.
of the like a guest coach for Persecution Fight Team. We'll see.
Jesus, I haven't heard the name Steve Gutenberg since like high school. Jesus Christ.
No,
But yeah, as far as this goes, the guys are right that the people that have knocked Moicano out are levels above the people that have knocked Jai Herbert out. I want to trust Moicano more, but if he doesn't commit to the grappling, and like I know he did against Hadžović, but he's had other fights, even where he's won by submission, where he hasn't really committed to the grappling, and he's been, even though he beat Cub Swanson by rear naked choke, it was because he dropped with the jab and jumped on his back and things like that. Against Calvin Kattar, obviously very dangerous striker, he was willing to strike with him. So I can't trust that he's going to just go out there and try and out wrestle Jai Herbert, get his, hop on his back, things like that, and get a submission. So that's hesitant for me to really count on him as a parlay piece in this spot. But that TKO prop around plus 500, that's quite live. I think Herbert's both of his losses have been by TKO. We have seen Moicano has good striking, and he can hurt people in the past. So I think that might be a decent angle to look at. And then he's probably going to come out and hop on his back in 30 seconds and choke him out. But that's the risk we run with this game, and that's me being blinded by the pretty prices as opposed to the most likely actual outcome. But yeah, Moicano's going to be the pick here. Just there's something about it where I don't feel great about trusting him as a parlay piece at minus 250. It's probably going to creep up around minus 300 come fight time.
Yeah, let's add that. Even though I think that it's going to go long, but I don't know if the numbers are necessarily right here. So I don't blame you guys if you are going to pick inside to do it by method rather than by like a total or an under. I think you're better off just picking the winning side and hopping on that plus money. Though, speaking of plus money, if you are of my mind and you think it's going to go long, and this might look more like Moicano Stevens, where he plays smart, stays on his bike, just does well-timed takedowns at the end of rounds, like he tried to do before getting burned with Ortega, then I see like plus 163, plus 180 at some houses, depending for a fight goes decision. If you're more of my mind, but I don't think you guys are crazy if you're going to go with the method.
Yep.
There you go. All right, moving on to the welterweight division again. We have Nicholas Dalby taking on Tim Means. Tim Means, he's been shot. He's gone to prison. He's been hit in the face with a shovel. Is this going to be the time where Nicholas Dalby blinds him with science, Dan?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, you got to also add the snapped ankle. Like he snapped his ankle one year, and then he's coaching kids wrestling. Like, I guess he's learning how to work with that ankle now because his ankle seems to work. His eyes seem to work, even though he lost a lot of teeth with that shovel shot, Brad. Don't you forget. He lost a lot of teeth, Tim Means. But he I don't know what it is, man. From like Matt Brown to like, these guys, science be damned, man. These white dudes are coming to fight. I'm going to keep cashing tickets, man, with my guys. And y'all know Tim Means is one of my guys. He's a southpaw striker. I'm favorable to that. And I only bring that up because I'll just give that stat here. It's not like those. I don't want to keep trashing the UFC stats because I see how many people in this industry like cash more paychecks than your boy here, but just going off those UFC stats. But I think the more interesting stat is that Dalby officially is what is he? He's 1-3-2 against UFC level southpaws. But if you do the math, like one of those no contests is Jesse Ronson who pieced him up before subbing him. Daniel Rodriguez actually probably beat him either 29-28 or 30-27. So he's probably like 0-5-1 against UFC level southpaws, with that one being, a guy who you guys, make fun of for being one-handed, but he was literally one-handed in that fight with Dalby, and Dalby can still only get the draw. Like, I call it the southpaw fault line, which is why it's interesting when he faced Alex Oliveira, because Alex Oliveira annihilates any southpaw he faces, whereas Dalby gets almost annihilated by southpaws he faces. So even though Means is old, and I didn't trust it, but I ended up laying Means as he got closer to like minus 130 from his 2-1 favorite line, just because his body seems to still work, and Dalby sucks against southpaws. That's pretty much it.
Sometimes that's all you need. You don't need to dive any deeper than that, Wes.
Yeah, Dan makes a bunch of great points. My only worry, like I like Means in this fight. Just Means has fought a couple guys lately that is let him stay at distance and get his striking off. I'm not sure Dalby is going to fight that kind of game plan. I think Dalby's got to get into Tim Means and got to make this fight dirty, or he's gonna get pieced up. I think Dan makes great points about him against southpaws. I like Tim Means in this spot. If I end up betting Tim Means, I don't really want to lay any juice on him. Him getting a little old and all the injuries and stuff, you just never know when it's gonna go. But Tim Means by decision is like plus 200. Dalby's tough. Whether you think he's won some of these decisions lately, guys don't get him out of there. I'm not sure that Tim Means is going to connect cleanly enough to get Dalby out of there. He's got a pretty decent chin. I think it could be a slow fight at times, to where there's going to be points in the fight where Dalby does get this against the cage, and they're just kind of in close, doing a lot of nothing on the cage, trying to gain position, underhooks, turning each other around. I can see that type of fight playing out. I think when they are in space, Tim Means is going to land the more significant strikes, and I think he can get a decision there. So if I bet Tim Means, it's going to be by decision at around plus 200.
Yeah, I think at distance there's going to be a lot of left hands coming straight down the pipe, and Dalby's going to be eating them. It's just a matter of if there's going to be enough time spent at distance for those to add up over whatever Dalby does when they're stuck against the cage. Although Means does have a pretty solid clinch striking game, uses elbows well, uses good elbows well.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of mitigates a little bit of the risk. Under supposedly the new scoring criteria, you would think that Daniel Rodriguez would have got the decision over Dalby, but that didn't happen. So there's a bit of a concern there. But you're getting kind of a similar matchup in terms of how Dalby needs to win the fight, just at a much cheaper price this time around. So, I think this is one where they definitely got the totals right in terms of this is probably going at quite a few minutes, probably 15 minutes. So I'm staying away from that. But I do lean towards Means as well. I'm not sure. I haven't bet it yet. Maybe we can get a little bit more of the line tightening up, or maybe it just sort of like stopped at that minus 130 mark that Dan got, and now it's heading back the other way. But if it drops any lower than that, I think I might take a little shot on Means myself. Next up in the featherweight division, we got touchy-feely Andre Fili taking on, hey, we talked about Vipers earlier. It's Daniel the Pit Pineda. Wes, we'll start off with you here.
Yeah, it's another kind of tough fight for me to call, man. I've liked Daniel Pineda for a long time. Watched him on so many regional fights over the years. That's kind of got me in trouble, trying to bet him in spots. Yeah, I think this is a really close fight. I just kind of feel like this is probably going to end up on the mat a lot, and Daniel Pineda just likes to lay on his back a lot on the mat, and I just feel like Fili's the better grappler. I haven't bet anything on this fight. I'm probably going to stay away because, like I said, I'm just kind of biased for Daniel Pineda fights sometimes. Fili at minus 225 is not really something I want to get involved with at this point. He's really, really flaky. Fights that you think that guy's going to win, he ends up finding a way to lose them. I kind of like the over here. I think we do see this fight going some minutes. So if I do bet anything, it's probably going to be the over. But I'm going to pick Daniel Pineda in Toutmaster because I like Daniel Pineda and he's a dog here. I'm not gonna bet any money on him. If I make a wager on this fight, it's going to be on the over. I just think we see some kind of slow stuff happening on the mat, slow stuff on the feet. Yeah, so I like the over. I'm going to pick Daniel Pineda. That's it.
God damn, are we talking about the same Daniel Pineda? And you're talking about overs? We're talking about overs?
I know,
Daniel
man.
Pineda?
I know, dude. I know.
Yeah, it's hard not to like Daniel Pineda and Daniel Pineda's fighting style. Mexican Jake Shields, but very much not fighting like Jake Shields. Dan?
No, not at all. And yeah, for a guy who never won a decision, you hear over and you're like, what? But I actually can see that angle there with what Wes is talking about because Fili is really durable and he's become less of a finisher as time has gone on. So I think the general dynamic, no matter what you're picking or playing, is that Fili probably going to win by decision. Inside, it's going to be by Pineda. I'm not saying anything crazy there. I will say this, though. I think it's about a round and a half, which, again, is not necessarily crazy, though Pineda has round 2 and round 3 finishes on his record. But I just essentially think that Fili, I don't know how underrated it is, but he's got a really underrated wrestling and double. But Pineda's got a really good guillotine. And I don't think Pineda has the one-shot knockout power. Fili has too many counter switches stances for Pineda to do the leg kick routine that he's really leaned into. So I feel like Pineda's going to make it a dogfight and like go Worley Alves, the guy shooting his guillotine. If that doesn't happen, he's losing this fight. So I got fucking Fili, and no money on it for me.
Yeah, this one's tricky because when I hear Andre Fili's name, I still think about the Andre Fili from like 5 years ago, where this dude was one of the most electric guys at getting finished. Like Max pieced him up later in their fight and guillotined him. The original King of Magma, Godofredo Pepe, threw the flying triangle on him.
Taking it back.
Then we've got Yair with the like flying switch kick on him. This dude just got lit up in multiple ways, and every time I think about him, I can't help but like revert back to those times. But I think those are the only 3 times he's ever been finished. So you're right when you say that he's durable, but if there's anybody who's capable of throwing a highlight finish out there, I mean, Daniel Pineda. All of his wins are inside the distance. So I could definitely see Pineda getting it done early. I'm quickly going to pull up the old 365 to see. They've got Pineda round 1 is plus 900, which
what?
I think if you're taking the shot on Pineda,
I feel like taking that shot now. Geez, that seems like a crazy line to me. Because Fili always gets hurt, even though he's durable. He's durable and tough in the sense that he comes back, but he's still getting hurt a lot early in these fights. If you look at it, right, I think even Jury might have even shocked him early, much less Sadiq and stuff. So that's crazy. Plus 900.
Yeah. So right. I no, not at all. I think I might have to take that little shot on Pineda. But the more likely scenario is that Fili survives that, wins the last 2 rounds, and takes a decision. But we're going to swing for the fences and sprinkle on Pineda at that round 1 prop. All right. Bantamweight division, we have I'm going to say we've got the best fighter on the card. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best fight on the card, but I love me some Jaynes Barcelos, and he is taking on another unranked fighter because apparently if there's one thing that we can't do, it's get Jaynes Barcelos a real fight. Or at least like a worthwhile ranked fight. Timur Valiev is a good fighter. But Jaynes Barcelos taking on Timur Valiev in the bantamweight division. Wes, or who started off last time? I think Wes started off last time. We'll go Dan this time.
I don't know why I thought of TJ Grant, your Canadian brethren, but like when I just think about like notoriously bad matchmake fighters, like Jaynes Barcelos is right up there. Like, what are you waiting for this guy? Like to get old, to get concussed, to get permanently maimed? Like, what are we doing here?
Yep.
And you get a guy like Timur Valiev who, like, you know, he is a Dagestani fighter who, despite being a Dagestani fighter and despite my proclivities, I feel like Brad when I talk about Timur Valiev, talking about Russians up here, because I just don't get it. Like, he doesn't even have like the wrestling, the sambo, the master of sports, the hand-to-hand combat, random ones like that, like Rashid Magomedov would have. Like, in his bio, his literally his accomplishment is an accountant degree in college. Like, I don't. That's his only accomplishment. There's no martial arts accomplishment. It is his only on-paper accolade in the UFC bio is accounting. But in his defense, he is a very well-rounded fighter who maybe I undervalue because he's almost too well-rounded, which is not like me, considering I'm like, you know, I like basketball players like Scottie Pippen, who's probably not in vogue right now, right? The things he said, but no, like he's just not the kind of well-rounded fighter I like. He is as Brad would say, you know, a boring Russian, air quotes there for me. So
he is. It's okay.
Okay. So keep in mind I have that bias, but I think Barcelos should roll here. It may play out closer than the line appears, but I still feel like I'm not questioning him when I pick him. I didn't put him in anything. I may. Maybe not. I don't know.
Wes?
Yeah, I'm with Brad here too. I love me some Jaynes Barcelos, and maybe it's some of the UFC not getting him a fight. I think it's got a little bit to do with some of these top 10 guys probably aren't wanting to face this dude at this point because he's legitimate. Like, this guy's really good. I think Alves here this is probably just going to be a kickboxing match of Jaynes Barcelos piecing this guy up for 15 minutes. Alves is very, very tough. He is well-rounded, but most of his fights end up just staying up, man. So I think Barcelos is perfectly fine with turning this into a kickboxing match. And he's the bigger guy here. He's got the more reach. I think Alves is tough enough, though, that I don't think he gets him out of there. I think this goes 15 minutes. And I like Barcelos by decision. It's some slight plus money. I'm probably going to use him straight in something small, some sort of small parlay. But, yeah, I really like him in this fight. I think Brad's right. He's probably the best fighter on this card. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some guys ducking him at this point. He's a problem in that division. The guy's really, really good.
Yeah, the only problem for him at this point in his career he's a 34-year-old bantamweight, which you know that tends to be the time when they start to slow down. And honestly, I have to apologize because I referred to his opponent by the incorrect name. It's Timur Valiev.
That's
you know. The only way this dude puts his accounting degree to good use is after the first round. He's just counting down the minutes until the decision bell rings. I think it's probably going to be competitive early because Valium does some tricky shit early on, but definitely slows down as the fight goes on. And Barcelos is a guy who builds on his performance. He's good at reading his opponent. He's good at finding the holes, and whether that's in the striking, whether that's shooting well-timed takedowns. Once he gets on the ground, very talented grappler. He's got all the tools. So I think he's going to find a way here after maybe a tricky first round. Haven't mentioned much of these yet in terms of the fights that we've had matched, but wouldn't be shocked if we see a round 2 or possibly a round 3 stoppage in this one. If Valiev gets tired and is getting a little sleepy, Barcelos gets a takedown in the 3rd round. It could just be some quitting time. And I think that's around, what do we got for the Barcelos round 3? You can get that 12, 1300. Don't hate that. Might look for some other stuff, maybe that and Pineda round 1 and a couple of the other things that we talked about early. Make ourselves a little round robin for this card. It sounds like it could have some potential, but I like counting Barcelos. I definitely don't hate him as a parlay piece in this spot. Co-main event. We are in the heavyweight division because the UFC loves giving us these heavyweight fights at the top of cards lately.
Light heavyweights that won't go weight.
Exactly. These are 2 very good examples of light heavyweights who do not want to cut weight. We've got our boy Off taking on the Canadian Tanner the Hoser Boser. Wes, let's go. Before you start, I will have you reminded that the Hoser said KB Buhler is the best fighter at his camp. Continue.
Is this actual like UFC? This is the highest. This is the pinnacle.
Co-main event, baby.
It's the pinnacle of MMA, right?
That's right.
I've not been impressed by Boser personally. I know there's a lot of people up towards your way, Brad, that probably ranks him top 5 now, Canadian pound for pound at this point. I think he's got a problem stopping takedowns. I think he's got a problem with guys that can get a hold of him and get him to the mat. We saw that play out last time, and I wouldn't be shocked if Ospa got a hold of him and got him to the mat, man. I haven't bet Osp yet. I'm trying to not bet on shitty fights and fighters here. I did it last week though, and it kind of paid off a little bit. I finally had a winning event. Thanks a lot to Matt Brown. I appreciate that. I wouldn't be shocked if Osp got this to the mat and maybe got a finish. I know Boser's really, really tough to finish. I know Latifi was on top of him for a big chunk of time in their fight. But Latifi is not Osp on the mat either. Osp is a finisher when he gets on top of guys. So I was looking by Osp by maybe inside the distance or Osp by sub. There's some pretty big numbers out there. If I do bet Osp, it's going to be by a prop like that. He's just slight plus money at this point, I believe. I think there's some plus 150 out there, so which isn't bad if that's your side. If you're picking him, I'd rather just take a smaller shot on him at one of those props. So I'm going to pick Osp in this spot. I just think he's the more talented guy. It's just what has he got left at this point. And I think Boser's susceptible to getting taken down and getting laid on top of, like we saw happen just in his last fight and has happened before. So I'm going to take some Osp. I think he wins by sub here.
Dan, Von Preux.
Yeah, I don't disagree with a lot of what Wes said. I'm on a different side, but I had to go check on my dogs because the dogs were barking. And, you could say that about this fight. I'm actually taking Boser as a pick, but I did write down here, I don't blame anybody punting on OSP. It's hard to pick a method, though I don't disagree with the ground aspect that Wes said. However, even though this is another fight where I want to be like, oh, decision, one guy, finish, it's OSP. If OSP is really in shape and did a heavyweight fight but was training for light heavyweight, maybe he actually has cardio or more than normal. It's hard to say. OSP is so inconsistent. But I could see a really weird performance where he just takes him down and maybe gets a decision. So my take still stands. The one I gave on my podcast, where if you want to play OSP, or an angle, play OSP, but hedge OSP Boser over. It's pretty juicy right now. I think it's up to -150, but it's still, playable chalk if you really want to take a shot there as far as a hedge, because if Boser wins, it's going to be by decision. And again, OSP, if he's not able to get the finish, who's to say he doesn't just take Boser down enough to even confuse these judges who should be scoring on damage? So I feel like it's an angle.
Yeah, I find this one to be extremely tough to call. Wouldn't be shocked if we see Oth get a takedown or two and ride out a round, or maybe just sort of hold Boser against the cage. There isn't going to be the same size disparity that he had in his last heavyweight fight against Ben Rothwell, where Rothwell was just able to really march him down and hold him up against the cage and control those aspects of the fight when they got in tight. It's not the Hoser style.
Boser just got, thrown around by blown up fucking middleweight probably, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's tough to not see that happening. And, I mean, just adding to the MMA Analysis rulebook, there's a Canadian as a favorite here. Like,
yeah, that's the angle. We can stop talking about it. We can stop talking about it.
Yeah, Canadians a favorite.
And let's be honest. Look at the other side. I mean, listen, guys. I'm not going out on a ledge here, and I'm just going off strictly posture. Okay, the man's posture. But OSP looks like he's got a painfully huge piece. I'm just going to throw that out there. Make what you will of it. But to your point, look at the podcast we're on. What are we doing here?
Yeah, It's anatomically correct because he's got a huge ass too, so he has to have something on the other side. So he's got the correct balance, right?
Brad's brought up a great point lately, though, is that there's been some guys that have rated very high on the Hog Analysis scale that have lost recently, and they did go to a new uniform starting this year. And Brad has brought up the point to where these boys might not be perfectly comfortable when they're in there fighting.
That is when they're getting taken down, though, not when they're trying to do the takedowns. So it might work to his advantage here.
As long as it's on the right side that he's trying to apply the pressure of the takedown. Like,
exactly.
He likes to grab a left hip, is the cup leaning,
Either way, Venom shorts where they really got big room for the two snakes, not just the one,
Double snake pockets. Come on.
That's right.
There you go. That's what you guys came here for.
There we go.
Took us a while to get there, but I mean, we're going to follow it up with another one because main event of the evening, we've got the recently thick Alexander Volkov taking on the always thick Cyril Gane. This is it's actually a pretty solid fight. I'm not sure that it's going to be great to watch. I could see a few ways that this one plays out, but I'm going to let you guys talk about this one first. We'll let the guest kick it off for the main event. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, man. I mean, speaking of solid fight or Hog Analysis, this thing is so tight, it may come down to who looks better in a pair of skinny jeans, if you know what I'm saying. Because, we're going into this one blind, right? We don't have that metric at our fingertips. A little too close to. Anyways, you know what I'm saying here. The point is, I think it's a tight fight, but I actually went with the dog here, not just because it's heavyweight. And again, not that it matches that description, because I believe you said low-level heavyweight. Let's give these guys some credit. They are more technical heavyweights, right? For this division. That being said, I just think Volkov's kind of come into his own, even in his losing fight where he lost the typical way of being wrestled. He showed a lot of improvements against the guy. Say what you will. I picked Derek Lewis to beat him, granted. So it's not that I'm like super high on Blades, but Blades is a really good positional rider and wrestler. So the fact that Volkov was able to do that, I don't see Gane able to do that. I think he's good in the clinch, but not good enough. Volkov's at the, recently, I know it's older Overeem, but he recently beat one of the best clinch fighters in the history of the division. He got a switch stance and southpaw look from Overeem, a south look from Harris, both 6'5" guys, which is Gane, 6'4", 6'5", likes to fight a lot of southpaw. I feel like it's literally, you couldn't pick a more perfect time for Volkov to have this fight. So if there's any chance Volkov's going to beat this guy, even though he's the odds-on underdog, I think he kind of should be favored, albeit slightly. So I just put a unit on Volkov, and then I played him here. I picked him. Not super confident, but I just feel like the wrong guy probably is favored, so I'll take a shot.
Don't hate that. Wes?
Yeah, I think I gotta agree with Dan here. He's right that Gane's not. He's a decent clinch guy. I don't think he does a lot of work in it. He kind of controls. But Volkov just has problems with guys that get into the clinch, get him down, ride his back like Blaze does and stuff like that. That's not Gane, man. This fight's going to be fought a lot in distance, I think, man. That's just how Gane fights big chunks of his fights. That's how Volkov loves to fight, and he's very, very good at it. You talk about Derek Lewis. Most people know how I feel about Derek Lewis, but Volkov was smoking him. Volkov was smoking him, man. Derek Lewis caught him fine. He got him,
and then what happens?
He got another one. He got me once again, of course. But I just think that shows Volkov's a really, really good fighter, and he does well against big dudes that don't have, like, Gane's not got a ton of good foot movement. He's kind of a plodding guy that throws one shot at a time, and that works against a lot of the heavyweight division. I think Volkov is going to stay at some distance here. Maybe Gane gets inside and does some clinch against the cage. Volkov's gonna keep this tight. And talk about seeing something in those skinny jeans, huh?
Yeah, I think if it comes down to the skinny jeans, are those even allowed in Russia? So
you might you might not be living the next day you put on a pair of skinny jeans over in Moscow. That might be a bad idea. So I like Volkov here. I like Volkov to keep some distance, and I'm going to take a little shot on Volkov by decision here. I think this goes long. I think this is a lot of distance fighting, a lot of single strikes. And Volkov by decision is around plus 400. So I'm going to take a little the straight money. I'm with Dan too. I think this should be more of a pick 'em. I think this. I could see Gane winning a decision here as well. Like I think it's going to be a close kind of tight technical fight. The guy that lands the one or two more significant punches in a round is going to end up still in that round, and it's going to be a close decision, I think. So I could see Gane pulling that off as well, but I'm going to take the dog in a fight that I think should be a pick 'em, and that I think is going to long. I'm going to try to pick the guy I think that's going to win by decision, and Volkov by decision is plus 400. I'll take a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, this is a tough one to call for me because I could definitely see an angle where Volkov is throwing the more meaningful volume. Because a lot of what Gane wants to do is stay at distance and really just sort of control his opponent's actions. He's going to touch your leg. He's going to touch you with the jab. He's not really going to commit to a whole lot, but he wants to keep his opponent from doing anything to him. And he's very effective at that. And he's been effective at it against guys that have decent reach as well. But I'm interested to see how he's going to react when there's a guy that throws the same volume back at him that Volkov's willing to throw. So whether that means that Gane's actually the one to close the distance, get inside, maybe actually use his wrestling a bit, because I think that he's probably the even though Volkov's put on some muscle, I think Gane's probably still the physically stronger guy. He might be able to get a surprise takedown or two in there and use that to not necessarily steal a round, but just sort of change the complexion of a round. Because obviously we've seen that Volkov has a great get-up game when he is able to, or when guys are able to take him down. So this one's kind of a mystery to me. I'm I'm not sure if the line's high enough on Volkov that I want to take a shot on him at this point. I definitely don't hate the decision prop. Plus 400 is enticing because we've seen Gane hit with some shots before. Like JDS landed some big shots on him early, and he just sort of shook them off. Like he recognized them and stepped back, sort of gathered himself and went about whooping that poor old dude's ass again. So yeah, I don't really have a strong feeling on this one. Maybe the over, but even those aren't a great price anymore because people have started to see that Gane isn't the powerhouse that he looks like.
Yep.
Some serious Czech Congo syndrome going on there. Not just because he's black and French, but yeah. So, man, I think that Volkov's experience gives him the slight edge. So I guess I'm going to pick him. But Gane is really the more physically gifted of the two fighters, as Steve very aptly pointed out.
That's right.
So
That's right.
We'll see where this all leads. But I think this might just be a case where if I am watching, since I myself will be gone to the cottage by the time that this fight is on, I just might sit back and enjoy it and not have anything invested. But hopefully it plays out as more of a high volume, heavyweight striking affair than kind of the justifiably tepid affair that Gane had with Rosenstruik, because obviously that dude packs one hell of a punch. So that is going to do it. What was that?
No, wait. Actually, it would be the other way around. Sorry if he's on our. I'm getting it all confused, Brad. Don't listen to me.
I try not to. It's okay. You've been on the show for long enough now that we're good. Before we get out of here, we got a PFL with a minus 4,000 favorite in the main event. If you guys want to talk about that at all, we got Bellator with a good old Timmy Big Dick in the main event.
Timmy Big Dick is going for a title. That's the only fight that actually really matters this weekend. That's it.
That's the one.
That's it.
I'm surprised I didn't get fired because one time for Junkie Staff Picks, because I do these late at night, which is a big problem. And I maybe I thought I was talking to you guys or something, and I submitted Timmy Big Dick as the pick. I always have to change the names to be clever to everybody, and I'm like, no one listens to the MMA Analysis on the Junkie Staff probably. Now, no offense to you guys, I'm just saying they probably just think I'm the biggest weirdo now. I mean, as if they don't already have enough reason. But yeah, if that didn't get me fired, and if this doesn't, it's been a pleasure. I didn't mean to hijack your outro there, but yeah.
Oh, that was not the outro yet.
Hey,
but
Brad's his penis names are starting to take over the mainstream, though. I mean, Thick Willie kind of started to get out into mainstream a little bit finally. So maybe Timmy Big Dick will catch on.
If he becomes a champion, there's no stopping it.
I think he might be listening to the podcast. I mean, did you see the man weigh in with jeans and boots to make it actually look cool? Non-affliction, he actually made it look cool. That's some BDE right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's
absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Hey, we're bringing it to people. We just need Thick Willie to get a win next time out, so that the nickname doesn't peter out, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that is going to do it for this week's MMA Analysis. Dan, we are very thankful for you, to you for joining us. You can check Dan's stuff out at MMAJunkie.com. Obviously, the Protect Your Neck podcast is tremendous. Go and listen there. It is not what you would typically expect from an MMA journalist, quote unquote. Some of my favorite MMA characters make appearances in that one, including Pedo Forrester.
Yeah.
But yeah, anything else you wanted to mention before we get out of here, Dan?
No, man, it was honestly cool as fuck. Obviously, having a good time with you guys. That's why I listen to you guys. That's probably why I cracked one open, for better or probably worse, because I haven't podcasted and drank for a minute. But it was a fun occasion, and you guys are dudes who I'm overdue to have a beer with in real life. So until we can make that happen, I will settle for this, and I appreciate you guys offering burnt out dudes like myself some reprieve, some comic reprieve. Obviously, hopefully no one listens to this, takes this shit too seriously. And you guys are really great reminders of that. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you. And thanks to all the listeners. I will not be back next week, but the podcast will. Enjoy the card, and we'll talk to you later. Bye, folks.